They call us average. The Galactic Alliance's newest members, fresh from our little blue marble, barely a century into interstellar travel. Average strength, average speed, average intelligence. Just average. I'm Elias Monroe, and I've heard it all before. Former soldier, current observer, and today I'm here to tell you about the time we showed them what average really means. The Peace Martial Arts Tournament on Sursa Prime was supposed to be a celebration of unity. Hundreds of species gathering to compete in honorable combat, showcasing their unique abilities. The Velicari with their bone blade arms, the Zinthari with their 4 hearts and redundant organs, the Kretak who could see in 12 spectrums of light. And then there was us, humans, the galactic equivalent of a participation trophy. I was assigned as escort and witness for our representative, Rin Taka, 5'6", maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. When she walked into the registration hall, the laughter started immediately. Not cruel laughter, mind you. More like the kind you'd hear when a child announces they want to arm wrestle their father. Threx Valen, the reigning champion from Velikar, didn't even try to hide his amusement. Standing 9 feet tall with crystalline armor growing from his very bones, he looked down at Rin like she was a particularly interesting insect. The average creatures wished to play in the arena of the mighty. His voice rumbled through the translator, dripping with condescension. Perhaps we should establish a junior league. Rin said nothing. She rarely did. Just signed her name on the registration pad and walked away. I followed, notebook in hand, ready to document what most expected to be humanity's embarrassing debut. The preliminary rounds began the next day. Rin's first opponent was a Gintari warrior, all 6 arms wielding electrified batons. They moved like lightning, strikes coming from every angle. The crowd expected the match to last seconds. It lasted 12 minutes. Not because Rin dominated. Not because she was faster or stronger. She simply endured. Every strike she couldn't dodge, she absorbed. Every attack pattern she adapted to. And slowly, methodically, she turned the tide. The Gintari's 6 arms began to slow. Their breathing became labored. And when they finally overextended on a particularly vicious combination, Rin struck once. A simple palm strike to the solar plexus. The Gintari dropped. The crowd fell silent. I wrote in my notebook, they don't understand yet. Each subsequent match followed a similar pattern. Rin faced opponents who could bench press shuttlecraft, who had natural armor thick enough to deflect plasma bolts, who moved so fast they left afterimages. And each time, she weathered the storm. She bent, but never broke. She adapted, she endured, and she waited. By the 3rd day, the laughter had stopped. The other competitors watched her matches with furrowed brows and whispered conversations. How was this average human still standing? How was she winning? I knew the answer. I'd seen it before in the war-torn streets of Mumbai, in the frozen wastes of Europa, in a dozen conflicts across the solar system. Humans aren't the strongest, the fastest, or the smartest. We're the ones who don't stop. I remember my grandfather telling me about persistence hunting, how our ancestors would chase prey for hours, even days. Not because we could outrun them, but because we could outlast them. Other predators relied on bursts of speed, overwhelming strength, natural weapons. We relied on something else entirely. Endurance. Threx Valen's matches were spectacles of dominance. He didn't just defeat his opponents, he demolished them. Rarely did a fight last more than 2 minutes. His crystalline armor made him nearly invulnerable. His enhanced musculature gave him strength that could crumple steel, and his warrior culture had honed his skills since birth. When the final match was announced, Rin versus Threx, the betting odds were amusing. 10,000 to 1 against the human. I put down a month's salary on Rin, not because I was certain she'd win, but because I wanted them to remember that someone believed. The arena was packed. Every species in the Alliance had sent representatives, and holographic displays beamed the match to a billion worlds. They wanted to see David versus Goliath, but they expected to see David get crushed. Threx entered the arena like a conquering hero, his crystalline armor catching the light in prismatic displays. Rin walked in wearing simple training clothes, no armor, no weapons beyond her wrapped hands. The contrast was almost comical. "I will end this quickly," Threx announced, his voice carrying to the furthest seats. "It is cruel to prolong the inevitable." Rin bowed slightly. "Thank you for the honor of this match." The bell rang. Threx moved like an avalanche, given purpose. His first strike would have caved in the hull of fighter craft. Rin wasn't there. She'd moved just enough, just fast enough. His second attack, a sweeping kick that could have felled a tree, missed by inches. The third, fourth, fifth, all found empty air or glancing blows that Rin rolled with, minimizing damage. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The crowd's bloodlust turned to confusion. Why wasn't the human fighting back? Why was she only defending? I smiled and made another note. They still don't understand. At the 15-minute mark, I saw it. A bead of sweat on Threx's brow. A slight hitch in his breathing. Crystalline armor is heavy. Enhanced muscles still need oxygen. And Threx had been fighting at full power from the start, expecting a quick victory. Rin hadn't thrown a single offensive strike. 20 minutes. Threx's attacks were slowing. His footwork became less precise. The crowd began to murmur. This wasn't the dominant display they'd expected. "Fight me," Threx roared, frustration bleeding through his translator. "Stop running. I am fighting," Rin replied calmly, sidestepping another haymaker. "Just not the way you expect." 25 minutes. Threx was breathing hard now, his mouth open, gulping air. His crystalline armor, which drew from his body's energy to maintain its integrity, was flickering at the edges. He'd burned through his reserves, trying to end the fight quickly. And then, at the 28-minute mark, Rin struck back. It wasn't flashy. No spinning kicks or elaborate combinations. Just a simple leg sweep when Threx overcommit to a punch. The champion went down hard, his own weight and momentum working against him. Before he could recover, Rin had him in a submission hold, using his own armor's bulk against him. The arena fell dead silent. Threx struggled, but he had nothing left. No energy to power his armor, no strength to break free. After 30 seconds that felt like hours, he tapped out. A human had won the Peace Martial Arts tournament. The silence broke into chaos. Some cheered, some booed, most simply stared in disbelief. I closed my notebook and stood, making my way to the arena floor. Rin helped Threx to his feet. The Velikari champion, who had never been defeated, who had never even been seriously challenged, looked at her with something like awe. "How?" he asked simply. "You train to win quickly," Rin replied. "We train to survive. Your species evolved as apex predators. Ours evolved being hunted by everything with teeth. We learned to outlast, to endure, to keep going when everything else stops. You're stronger, faster, better armed. But we're still here, aren't we?" Threx stood there for a long moment, then did something no Velikari had ever done after a defeat. He bowed, deeply. The crowd erupted again, but differently this time. Not mockery or disbelief, but respect. Grudging perhaps, confused certainly, but respect nonetheless. In the days that followed, the dynamic shifted. Species that had dismissed humans as barely sentient now approached our delegation with careful courtesy. Military academies across the Alliance began studying human endurance training. Threx himself requested permission to train with Rin, to understand the philosophy that had defeated him. I published my account of the tournament, and it spread across the galaxy faster than light. The title was simple, The Dangerous Nature of Average, because that's what they didn't understand before. When you're the best at something, you have one great strength and many weaknesses. When you're average at everything, you have no glaring weaknesses to exploit. No critical system that, once overcome, ensures defeat. We're not the strongest, but we're strong enough. Not the fastest, but fast enough. Not the smartest, but smart enough. And when you combine that with the will to keep going, to endure beyond all reasonable limits, to stand up one more time than you get knocked down, that's when average becomes exceptional. A year later, I attended another tournament. This time, there were a dozen human competitors. They didn't all win, but they all lasted longer than anyone expected. They all showed that same relentless endurance. The other species had started calling us something new, not the average ones anymore. Now we were the persistent ones. Some even used another term, the dangerous ones, because they'd learned what we'd always known. In a universe full of specialists, a generalist who refuses to quit is the most dangerous thing of all. Threx found me in the stands during that second tournament. He sat beside me, watching a human fighter weather a storm of attacks from a Kreetak warrior. "I understand now," he said quietly. "Your species, you're not average. You're balanced. And balance is the hardest thing to topple." I finished. He nodded. "We focused on maximizing our strengths. You minimized your weaknesses. We never considered that approach." Down in the arena, the human fighter was still standing, still moving, still fighting. Their opponent was beginning to slow, beginning to breathe hard. "Do you know what human military historians call it?" I asked. "When an inferior force defeats a superior one through sheer refusal to give up?" "What? A Tuesday?" Threx laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "I think I'm beginning to like your species, Elias Monroe." "Give us time," I replied. "We grow on you, like a fungus, or a really persistent rash." We watched the rest of the match in companionable silence. The human won, of course, not because they were better, because they were still standing when their opponent couldn't continue. That's what they never understood about us before Rin showed them. We're not impressive. We're not exceptional. We're not the protagonist species in the grand drama of the galaxy. We're just the ones who keep going, who adapt, who endure. And sometimes, that's the most dangerous trait of all. I still have that notebook filled with observations from that first tournament. The final entry, written after Rin's victory, still makes me smile. They called us average. They weren't wrong, but they forgot that average just means balanced. And a balanced thing is the hardest to knock down. We're not the best at anything. We're just good enough at everything. And we never, ever stop. The galaxy knows us now, not as the weaklings who stumbled into space, not as the primitive newcomers playing at being a real civilization. They know us as we truly are, the persistent ones, the enduring ones, the ones who will still be standing when others have burned bright and burned out. We're human. We're average. And that's what makes us dangerous. Years have passed since that tournament. Rin retired from competition, but she runs a training center now. Students from 100 worlds come to learn the human art of persistence. Threx is one of her assistant instructors. He's gotten quite good at teaching aliens how to pace themselves, how to conserve energy, how to outlast instead of overpower. I still write, still observe, still document our species' journey among the stars. And whenever someone asks me what makes humans special, I tell them about that tournament, about how a small woman defeated a giant not through strength or speed, but through the simple refusal to fall down. The other species have their gifts, their strength, their speed, their natural weapons. But we have ours too. We're not the hare or the tortoise. We're something else entirely. We're the ones who just keep running, long after everyone else has stopped. In the end, that's what survival is about. Not being the best, just being the last one standing. They called us average. They were right. And that's exactly why they should fear us. Because in a universe full of extremes, sometimes average is the most extreme thing of all. The tournament still continues annually, and humans compete regularly now. We don't always win, but we always last longer than anyone expects. And that's enough. Because every time a human fighter gets back up after a blow that should have ended the fight, every time we keep moving when physics says we should collapse, every time we turn defeat into a war of attrition, we remind the galaxy of a simple truth. We're not special. We're not chosen. We're not destined for greatness. We're just too stubborn to quit. And in the end, that's the most human thing of all. So here's to being average. Here's to being balanced. Here's to being the species that everyone underestimated until they realized we were still standing when they couldn't get back up. We're humans, and we're still here, still standing, still fighting, still human, always.